just checked these yesterday. Actually, I just checked these last week. It's a good thing I checked them again because I got another fucking nail, dude. Are you serious right now? I'm not driving in construction sites. What the fuck? Stupid. Alright, so now the car's up on jack stands. I'll show you on this back one because it's a little bit easier to see. But we've got 2 screws here. We've got 2 mounting bolts for the calipers back here. And then of course we got our pins that keep the pads in place. And on the front, your brake line is actually going to have a support bolt. That's typically a 12 mil. So just pop that off so that way you're not yanking on the cable as you take it down. And a mallet, rubber mallet or a dead blow hammer is going to really help out here. So find your bolts. And remember that since you're facing opposite, you're going to need to turn this towards your right, not your left. So we need a jack for this. We can't do it without it, at least not easily. I'm basically going to jack up the spring perch that holds the spring and the strut in place, just to get a little bit of tension on that. Alright, now that we got the bolt out from the swing arm, we can just let this go, and the spring is going to push that piece out and max the strut out. And now we have access to the bolt back here, which once again is a 17. Alright, now that pain in the ass one's out, get the easy top one. Now while it's still being supported, I'm going to take one of these, which is a punch, and put it right on the tip, and just give it some light taps to push it out. Don't use a hammer, and don't use a flat head or anything else that's going to mess up the calipers on the outside because you want it to look good, unless you honestly don't care. You push it out most of the way. Pretty simple. And then if you just push these springs in, it'll loosen up just a little bit to let you pull that pin out. Finish taking out that other bolt. And remember that your caliper is no longer going to be supported. So definitely hold on to it, pull out your pads. These pads aren't that bad. So here my line's in the way, but the pin goes out enough that you can still get the pads in there. So just support it until you can get the rotor off. Alright, now you can either put the e-brake on or really hold this in place and try to get these off. Now this happened to me before on these where I went to turn it with the hand screwdriver and it pretty much just went to strip it out no matter how much I pushed in. So what you can do, turn the pressure down to like 20 psi, something really small, or if you have a really tiny one of these that doesn't have as much oomph to it, press it in pretty hard, just give it a light tap, and then it's loose. And you can take both of them off. Top, and of course bottom. Give it a wiggle to see if it's coming out, and if it's not, so go ahead and take your hammer, mallet, definitely not a hammer, mallet. Give it a few taps, turn. And now you got your rear rotor off. you can see here, your rear rotor here is where your braking surface is for your actual brakes. You can see that again on the front. On the inside here, there's another braking surface. Now that braking surface is right here. It's a traditional or an old-fashioned drum brake. And basically, as you pull your e-brake into your parking brake, these things open up, scrapes the inside. You can see that dust in there, it's pretty gross. This dust is actually toxic, so definitely don't breathe that in. Don't give it a blow or anything like that. But now the back's off, and I'll show you how to do the front. Alright, so we had our brake here, our caliper sitting on the jack, and since we actually are going to take our rotors to get resurfaced and not replacements, we're going to go ahead and put this back in using the regular bolts, just so we get our jack back so we can continue on all of the other calipers and all the other rotors. Now obviously if you have only one car or you order replacements, you can just set this down on top of the jack or something so it's not hanging by the cable or the hydraulic line in this case, and just put your replacement in, no big deal. Alright, next side. Once again, before we finish doing this, we're going to want to tap out these pins. Alright, now we're going to push the spring in. Makes it easier to pull out the pin, and the second one's super easy. And now we can finish taking off that bolt. That's annoying. Take out these pads, which are destroyed beyond belief. Alright, so we went ahead, we got our rotors resurfaced at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, the cool thing, even though these are fairly good sized rotors, they only cost 15 bucks each. So that's a total of 60 bucks. Money, in my opinion, pretty well spent, because a new set of these for any sort of equivalent or better set is in the ballpark about $100 a rotor. Vented rotors are somewhere in the $120, $140, $150 range. And I didn't really feel like spending almost $1,000 to do a brake job. So figured these factory ones got some decent life left, get them remachined, get them turned and resurfaced, and O'Reilly did a surprisingly good job for what I paid, so no real issue there. So go ahead and clean them down with some brake parts cleaner, just get any sort of grease, any remnants, any light surface rust that might have formed from just them sitting out. Now I got the flu in the middle of doing the whole brake job, so I basically ended up having everything sit around for a couple of days because I could not get out of bed, so I even missed work for that. So we'll go ahead and throw these back in the car. It's pretty simple. I got some replacement screws. So because I had actually stripped these out, I had to use an extractor bit. These have the exact same angle. I got these from Ace Hardware, and they're basically exactly the same. The only difference is that they are Allen keys. So I do not know if I will hate that yet, but we'll find out. And I got full replacements. I'm replacing all 8 of them just because some of the other ones were close to stripping anyway, and I figured save myself the headache, just put new bolts in. They're 50 cents a piece, so not a big deal. Alright, let's clean these up and we'll get them back in the car. Now there's one really important thing to remember when you're putting on rotors. You do not want to touch the surface. If you touch the surface, you're going to get the oils, the grease, the acids and salts from your fingers, from your skin, and that's going to get onto that braking surface. It's going to grime it up. The brake pads won't bed as well, they won't seat in. Just for all intents and purposes, just make sure not only not to touch the surface when you're installing it, but at the end you're going to want to make sure that you give it a good clean over with brake clean, just to make sure you got all your bases covered. So, lining up the mounting holes on the hub. Alright, so let me show you a couple of differences here between the new brake pads and the old factory brake pads. So this one here, you can see it's got little grooves in it to help allow some of that heat to escape, as well as to let some of the dust go out. The factory pads, they're actually solid. I can show you. The rears are similar to the fronts, where they're just a standard pad. However, on mine, these are the fronts. You can see that the brake pad's actually much larger as far as the braking surface. So you've got about an extra centimeter on each side for the actual brake pads. Of course, you lose a little bit with those reliefs, but once again, you're still gaining at least a centimeter more. The other thing was, on mine, I had nothing left. I was actually going beyond that braking pad surface and actually going out into the to some of those relief areas. And I think that's my worst one, where you can see on this side I had a little bit left, maybe not even a millimeter. I mean, it's almost flush with that. On this side it was just well beyond flush. It was actually wearing that down, so that's bad. But once again, the rotors weren't damaged, they were perfectly good, and now I got myself some EBC Red Stuff straight from the UK. So we'll go ahead and throw these on. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of grease onto the back of these pads. Now, the Red Stuffs do come with their own grease. And we're just going to go ahead and match the factory specs on this. Pretty much just see where the factory had the grease marks and go ahead and do that. Now we're going ahead and we're going to compress those hydraulics back a little bit, just so that those pistons have enough space to clear the new pads, and just lightly tap them in. Make sure you have your squealer set on the proper side that factory had, and then you can go ahead and put your pins back in. Put a little bit of lube on here too, just so that they don't seize to the spring, and tap those pins in. Now, the rear pads did not fit. Amazon lied. What a surprise. Basically, I had to sand down both sides of the pad so that they would actually slide properly in. So it didn't affect the braking, it was just on the backing plate. They were a little bit too long. Alright, so since we're going to have to get our rotor... Really, birds? Like, right now is when you decide to squawk. Fucking assholes. Done? Good. Alright. Asshole birds. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like fucking nothing's going my way today. God damn it. Except that the Mini isn't blown up, which is good. Balls.